Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from FantasyFootballScout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's Az.
And I'm Adam.
Hello Az, hello Adam. So tonight's edition is being streamed during the closing minutes of Game Week 28. So those final crucial clean sheet losses and misfired shots may dictate our mood. At the moment, it's not good. I warn you. So let's hope for something better in the last few minutes. Due to other commitments, David and Luke are red flagged tonight, but luckily Adam Hopcroft has been able to step off the bench to join Az and I. Adam, would you, for those that haven't seen you before, because you've been on a few breakfast clubs and the Scoutcast before, and of course Meet the Manager video, but for those who perhaps haven't seen those, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's my 8th season playing fantasy football. I've had, in the 7 seasons I've done so far, I've had 5 top 10k finishes, so I've done relatively well. I'm doing okay this year. I think I'd be doing even better if I'd have bought in Aguero. I post quite a lot of stats on Twitter, so if anybody wants to follow me, you can catch me on Hopcroft13.
Nice little plug.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I'd get that in.
That's good. I put it in the notes, actually.
Liverpool have just scored, by the way. I'm just trying to work out who it is.
Now, I should tell you who. It's a Van Dijk goal. I think. And good news for Adam, the assist is Alexander-Arnold again.
Wow.
Another one.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
So we're starting well. Well, Adam's starting well. And me and Az are just looking at all these points going for other people, not us. Okay.
I'm used to it now.
Aside from us crying and Adam parting away, what's coming up in the show, Az?
So we've got planning and chips, which are still on the community's mind. So we're going to be talking about our latest chip strategies, which might have changed a bit since last week, and whether injuries and resurgent Newcastle are changing our minds and our heads towards their players. Leicester players under the new management, Brendan Rodgers is in. They got a good win against Brighton. I mean, I think we're the only team in English football that hasn't won in 2019. So Leicester just piling the misery on Brighton, but can they kind of keep it up over their really good run of fixtures? And we're also going to look at how Chelsea and their potentially unsettled troops fare with good fixture on the horizon. They're winning tonight against Spurs, which is, be a really good result for them. So if they can kick on, and they've got Fulham next, haven't they? So if they can kick on from this win tonight, they've got the games to do it. We'll also have all the useful features, our game week plans, differentials, clean sheets, a Watford-based roster with a smooth, and we'll start with finding out how the last game week treated us.
Okay, yes. So as we said, the games are still on, so none of our points are finalised yet. Myself and Az can't even bring ourselves to count them up. But how has the game week been going so far for you, Adam? Let's have a look. Here's your team's up on the screen.
I'll just bring up my team on live FPL. So I'm doing okay at the moment. So I've got Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. So they just need to hang on for the clean sheet. I've managed to get a rare Aubameyang goal as well, which was good. So I'm on, with bonus and everything, I'm on 55 at the moment. That could all change. A Watford goal and that damages it massively. I've captained Salah, got nothing back.
Yeah, we hate you.
But to be honest, it's the first okay week in a while, and like I said, that could change. And Liverpool have scored again, so fingers crossed it's Salah.
Oh my good lord!
It's Van Dijk again.
Oh, you're joking.
Oh no, that's.
Is there a possibility of a Salah assist? Do we know? Not yet. We'll come back to that.
We'll find out in a second. Okay. So yeah, it's been okay. I mean, probably that Van Dijk goal's not helped, and I think if anyone's got Van Dijk, well done. So.
It's a Robertson assist. So this is.
Okay.
So we're now happy.
Five assists in that game, and all for defenders.
Yeah.
All for Robertson and Van Dijk. That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've redeemed yourself, Adam, there, because Asmir now slightly happier.
Good. That's good to see.
But yes, no. As you said, you've had loads and loads of green arrows. You've been in and out and around. You're firmly in the top 10,000. Threatened with going out, but it looks like you're going for a green arrow this week. And that halts.
Yeah, hopefully could just do with Aguero slowing down and not scoring and a Salah goal. But yeah, hopefully it'll be an okay week.
Ashley Young has just scored for Manchester United, by the way. who knows who assisted? We'll find out
I
soon.
can't cope with this Scoutcast with
I
all
know,
these.
I know.
It's exciting.
Oh, dear.
It's exciting.
No, I hate it.
But not in a good way, So let's see. I've got your team up. So you got Robertson. This is good. We've got hopefully a clean sheet and a couple of assists there. But elsewhere, very similar team to mine, and it's not pretty.
Dire. I mean, Sterling benched wasn't great. Shaw's on my bench with an assist. I mean, yesterday I'd gone up 50,000 places. And I was thinking, oh, this isn't too bad a start to the week, and now I'm down 50,000 places. Not even from yesterday, from my original rank. So I've literally lost 100,000 places today. That's what I'm dealing with at the moment with my rank. It's just painful. I mean, and I blame Jota completely because he should have done better than nothing in 3 weeks when he's had a good run of games playing up front. He's just been so disappointing, and he's been like the kind of big differential. I mean, the big 6 million differential, but still, I thought, you get an out of position player like Jota with good fixtures and playing for Wolves who are really in form. I thought he was going to do really well, and he hasn't. So, really disappointed with that. I'm also a bit annoyed because I kind of dug myself into a hole with the whole Ederson Fabianski goalkeeper double up, which has kind of meant that I haven't been able to make some of the moves I wanted to make because I've got too much money tied up in Ederson. So that was a mistake. And actually, I've been doing all right. I've been getting a couple of green arrows, but it's been mostly luck. Luke Shaw keeps coming off my bench and getting me points, but my luck's run out this week with him because he will not be coming on because of Sterling's cameo. So yeah, it's just painful every week, Joe. You know, I'm like a broken record.
I know. Well, I hear you, brother, because I've got exactly the same issue. So we come to my team, and it's.
Do any of you own Pogba? By the way, he's just
Yes.
he got the assist.
Yes.
For Ashley Young.
So you've got. You'll just go back to
We
your
all-
team. You've got
We've all
Pogba.
got Pogba.
I think
I've
everyone
got
owns
Pogba. Everyone's got him, so it doesn't mean anything rank-wise, but it's nice. So that's points.
I think about captaining him as well, so that actually
Yes.
annoys me.
It could be worse, as you could have Trippier, who's just got an own goal, so that'd be.
Oh really?
Was it 2-0? 2-0?
Yeah.
Okay. This is getting. I mean, my head's going to explode at the moment.
Sorry.
I've got so many. Well, I was going to say I've got so many points going. I've got so many little bits of points coming in at the moment. So I think I'm up to 45 points with that Pogba assist. I'm fairly certain the average is going to be 50 or thereabouts. So I'm going to be below average. So I'm facing a red arrow. I'm very happy with Robertson. I'm very happy with some of them chipping in. I took a hit. I took my second hit in hardly ever really. I've taken 2 hits in a row last couple of weeks to sort my team out. Lots of injuries. I got rid of Firmino and Rashford to get Barnes and Aguero in. I'm happy with those moves long term, and so far they're going well, and I'm actually in profit from them. And I'm very happy to have Aguero for the next 3, and it's something we'll talk about. I don't have a strategy that should get Aguero in, but I defied my own strategy because I think he's too good. But I think that's I'm happier with that, and I'm happy with my team next week as well. I'll make a move. We'll talk about that a bit later. But the last couple of weeks, I really haven't been happy with my team. Injuries and just some wrong moves, really. I think Anderson, I think was a big mistake, and I wish I hadn't made that move a couple of weeks ago. But nevertheless, it's done now. As we have a couple of rough with the smooths. These are leftovers from Game Week 28, but they're so good. We're going to just roll them out for our Game Week 29 preview Scoutcast. So, yeah, should we start with the smooth first, Az?
Yeah, they've got to be mentioned. And I mean, Ken Rooney on Twitter, he must have been freaking out when Delafeu gets a hat-trick, and he's thinking, I just need one of my players. He's on his bench, so he's like, I need one of my players to miss out now. And lo and behold, Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't play, and so he gets 21 points or something off his bench, which is crazy
or something. Yeah, huge.
But the best bit about that is he's probably played Alexander-Arnold this week, and then he's probably got about another 20 points from him. So I mean, that is kind of the ultimate smooth, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, a rough though. FPL Martial, Delafeu out for Anderson, who he captained for 1 point.
The tweet I put up on the screen says Philippe Anderson in for Delafeu for me this week. What must be my most punty captain choice ever. Good luck all. You can tell that tweet was made before disaster struck for him.
It's just so sad.
But he's taken it well because
so full of optimism.
It's so full of optimism and joy. He's like a child, and he's wonderful. He's got a new toy, and it's all going to go right. And it's like he's clutching his balloon. And then the balloon sails off into the sky and he cries watching it. And everyone cries watching it. Who wouldn't cry with a child losing a balloon, as FPL Marshall has done? It was heartbreaking stuff. But he took it really well, and he was very pleased that he was going to get a mention on the Scoutcast. So there you go, FPL Marshall.
Every cloud.
Every cloud,
yeah.
Every cloud. Right, let's have a look at Game Week 29 then. We've almost had enough of Game Week 28. I don't know how many more minutes we've got left. I don't think I can take any more disappointment.
Me neither.
So what we need to look at, we usually divide this into players, teams, and talking point. It's a bit of a loose structure really, and the players really is actually a team this week, so we kind of cheated slightly. And what we're doing is we're looking at Leicester players. Az, you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, so obviously with lectures, combine Leicester and fixtures there. With Leicester's lectures as it will now trend. There's lots of options in the Leicester team. So we're getting a lot of questions on which players to get, who to consider. They've got defenders, but they aren't keeping clean sheets. They've got attackers who should, under Rodgers, start performing. So who are the best ones to go for? So Epic Shrug says Pereira, Maddison and Vardy could all prosper under Rodgers' philosophy. He was recently quoted in The Guardian saying he wants players to be really aggressive in games and noted he wants to utilise pace in his side. Will his appointment make Leicester players more attractive as fantasy assets? I mean, there's plenty of pace in that team. So if he wants to utilise pace, then he should be all right. And Gio says, is there more to come from Vardy, the ultimate pace merchant? Let's come to you, Joe, first.
Okay.
You haven't got any Leicester players,
I
have
do.
you?
I do have, but I wish I didn't. I've got Pereira.
Got Pereira.
And he was a player I've been targeting all the time, and he hasn't done it the last couple of weeks. But I'm still okay. I'm hopeful. I'm quietly confident, especially with Rodgers coming in. He was quite attack-minded. He did get the fullbacks going. And it's all about speed. He likes speed in the Premier League. He's talked about that already. And so I think that's something I like to hear, especially because Pereira is a pretty pacey guy. Aside from him, Maddison does appeal, but I am still watching out to see if he's a De Bruyne or a Tadic, because he's got amazing underlying stats. He's only got 5, well, I say only, so he's got 5 assists this season, but over his last 4 matches, he's created 21 chances. That's more than anyone, and going into tonight's matches, it was more than anyone, and so surely more is to come. At 6.6, I think he is a particularly good purchase for those looking to replace Richarlison, who is doing what he did last season. Second half of the season, he's just run out of gas, and I think that's a very good replacement there. Pereira, I think, is an exciting option. I personally probably wouldn't say get him in at the moment. But he's one to keep an eye on, especially because Leicester play game week 31 and 33. So I have him. I'll just see where it goes. Vardy, I'm just not sure about. He'll score goals. One of the videos we did earlier in the week, the captaincy video, myself and David were having a look at a post from Ruth NZ, one of the Fantasy Football Scout community regulars. And he pointed out that when managers go at Leicester, Vardy becomes brilliant again and scores a lot. And it was some ridiculous tally. He was scoring almost every game, getting attacking returns for about 6 or 7 games after a manager left. He's already got a goal, so he's on the way to perhaps doing that again. But, what he did at Brighton is what Vardy does. He gets a goal, and then maybe gets a yellow, maybe loses his bonus, and he ends up with like 5 or 6 points, which I think is absolutely great. If he was Rondon or Ashley Barnes or Josh King, who are around the kind of 5.5, 6, 7 million mark, or Jimenez even. But it's not good enough if you're an 8.8 million striker, when you've got all the other ones I've just mentioned competing with you, and they're outperforming him. And the last one I want to mention is Harvey Barnes. So he's 5.5. Now, if Brendan Rodgers likes him, He could be very good indeed. Last 6 game weeks, he had 21 shots. That's more than any other Leicester player. Maddison's had 16. Damari Gray, another potential option, 14, and Vardy with just 12. So I think there's plenty of options. And I think we can afford to wait a little bit as well, even though they have good fixtures. But game week 31 is when we may find ourselves without many players and looking to get a player in with a good fixture, or good set of fixtures. So I think one of the ones I've mentioned there would be good. But, happy shopping, people. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and if you're not keen on Pereira, you've got Chilwell as well in defence, who offers a slightly different, maybe more assist potential, more bonus potential on Pereira, who's got more goal threat.
Yes.
'Cause it doesn't look like Pereira's going to. He's been quite popular because he's been playing on the wing, hasn't he? But I don't think that's probably not going to happen so much anymore because there's Gray and Barnes and those types of players. What about you, Adam? Are you looking at any? Have you got any Leicester players?
Yes, I've got Pereira at the moment and haven't been overly impressed since I brought him in. I think in hindsight, it'd probably been better to bring in Newcastle defender. I would echo a lot of what Joe said regarding Leicester assets. So I think Harvey Barnes is a really interesting one. I think when you watch him, he's always involved. He has a lot of shots. His finishing's been a little bit wayward recently. So I think in the last 4, of the 18 shots he's had, only 3 have been on target. One thing which really appeals to me, though, is his penalty area touches. Before tonight's games, he'd had 35 in the last 4 game weeks, which was actually top by some distance. So I think for 5.5, I'm a Villa fan, so all the West Brom fans in the office kept telling me how good this player is. So I think he's a really intriguing option. Joe mentioned about Maddison and the chances he's created. I think he's going to be a Brendan Rodgers type player as well. So I think 21 chances in 4 games is phenomenal. And they've played a couple of tougher fixtures as well. So I think both of them offer potentially good value. I think the interesting one for me is Vardy, because I've read conflicting things. So I think Carragher was talking in an article I read earlier that he feels that maybe the counter-attacking style that suited Vardy is probably not the way that Rodgers is going to play. But I think Vardy is better than a lot of people give credit for. He gets all types of goals. He scores goals off crosses. He got 20 goals last year.
Yeah. Mm.
I think the point that Ruth NZ made is I think he's the sort of player, if he's in the right mind frame, and I think he got sent off earlier in the season this year. He's been in and out of the team. He's been taken off. I think with the right, and he's the main man in the team still. So I could see him going on a little bit of a run. I think the interesting thing with Vardy this year is usually he outperforms his expected goals. He actually tends to be quite an effective finisher and not many shots. But this year it's been the opposite. So I think his XG is around 12 and he's got 9 goals. So I think Vardy, I'm interested in him. In terms of targeting Leicester, I'm holding off this week to give another week versus Watford. But I'm interested in bringing him in for the Fulham game. Because I think that week's when Wolves have Chelsea, and so I think there could be potentially a few swaps there. Maybe Jimenez to Vardy, or I think it's a good week for Leicester to bring in Leicester players. I know you mentioned you've got Jota, so Harvey Barnes or Maddison would be perfect. But yep. I think the whole Brendan Rodgers move is quite an interesting one, and I think for the next 4 or 5, I think it could be a really, really positive thing. That's what I expect anyway.
I just can't quite believe that he's gone. I kind of, on course for the treble with Celtic, and you think he's got to be looking at one of a Spurs job or a kind of a top job, and it just seems. I think Leicester have made a really, really good appointment there, and getting him in so quickly. I mean, not even waiting till the end of the season, just bringing him straight over. I think he's a good manager. I think he's going to get. I think Leicester have got an incredibly talented bunch of players. I think they've bought really smart, really bought really young players, really skillful players, fast players as well that you should get the most of. So I really like the look of Maddison. I'm chairman of the
Maddison FC.
Yeah, the Maddison Fanboy Club. He's been really disappointing for ages now, but he never really had the full support of Puel, I think. He was getting subbed, quite regularly at 60 minutes. He wasn't playing in a lot of their kind of big games. And I think, for a new manager to come in, if they can kind of say, okay, Maddison, you're our kind of chief creator, which he has been, as Joe pointed out, I think they're going to be looking to get the ball to him as much as possible and looking for him to unlock defences. And with their fixtures, you've got to think there's going to be some goals. So I think I'm surprised his price is still quite high at 6.6. Is considering how badly he's done for the last 20 game weeks, you'd think it would have gone down a bit. So
it does remind me of Tadic. These amazing underlying stats, the occasional good score, but otherwise it's just like, what? How is he not getting points? You own him and you watch the game, you go, how is this happening? And he's just been one of those players. So Rodgers may change that. It was interesting in the live chat as well. So we got Tim Shannon was saying that Brendan loves the easy life. Apparently, well, I don't think if he loved the easy life, he'd play in a league where he manages the best team by 1,000 miles. Who's playing against a bunch of kids each week. That's the easy life. The hard life is managing a team that has won the Premier League in recent memory, and has been struggling in years with an ageing striker, with a team of slightly misfits really, and young kids, and it's a real challenge he's got on his hands.
I just wonder what their kind of targets are, because they're not going to be a top 4 club, like a consistent top 4 club. Top 6 is probably asking a bit too much. Top 8, so he's happy going from Champions League football with Celtic to a potentially top 8 side.
I think with Celtic, the challenge is the Champions League in Europe, but it's day to day. It's not really that much of a challenge, and I think it must come to everyone who is a Celtic manager at some point when you've won the lot. Apart from in Europe, you just think, well, how much more this can go on? It's endless winning.
I'd agree. There's not much more he can do at Celtic.
He's run his course, and good on him. He's ambitious.
He does well at Leicester. Then it's the opportunity of getting, one of the top jobs again, isn't there? So I think it's just. I think the timing of the move is a little bit strange, but I think Leicester have really gone for it to help plan for the summer.
I think it's great for FPL managers and great for Leicester, because I think he's come in at a time when they've got this amazing run of fixtures. They haven't got the blank game week, and they've got so many options to get on board with to help.
I'm a big fan of Brendan Rodgers because my best season was the Sturridge Suarez one. So that Liverpool team was fantastic for me personally, having both of those for most of the season, and they were great. Their fullbacks were quite good options as well, and it was a good, exciting time. Jumpers for goalposts and all of that.
I'm definitely bringing in either Maddison or Vardy this week.
Yeah,
finish on that, because I do think Watford, they're playing Watford next as well, who've just been absolutely hammered by Liverpool. They've got a game in a couple of days. They've got to pick themselves up for that game. Plus, Leicester got a good win against Brighton. And now they're going to have the Brendan Rodgers effect. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Leicester win that game quite comfortably.
And are you... and Adam, on your shopping list as well, you're keeping a very close eye on them?
Yeah, definitely. I've probably watched how they do the weekend and potentially bring them in for the Fulham game. I'm particularly interested in Harvey Barnes and potentially Vardy, but it'll be Vardy or Higuain, and I'm probably leaning more towards Higuain at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to another team.
It's nice segue into the next team, actually, with Higuain.
It is. Higuain. Well, no, I did have a good segue, As, but you moved it on, but that's fine. You weren't to know.
Sorry, I
was saying jumpers for goalposts. And speaking of goalposts and goalies, it's Chelsea. Let's put them up.
That was the good link, was it?
That was brilliant. I spent all day working on that. But to be fair, Adam's one is better. It's more direct. I've actually got a picture of Hazard up on the screen. He's looking sad. He was subbed early tonight, so no wonder he's a bit sad. But Adam, Chelsea, they look quite an interesting team to consider. Some good fixtures coming up. What kind of questions have we got?
I think we've got a few questions, but the general consensus is that they've been a little bit out of form, but got great fixtures. They play in the blanks and very likely to have a double game week in 32. So in terms of the fixtures, just reading them out, so they've got Fulham away, Wolves at home, Everton away, Cardiff away, and West Ham at home. So the questions we've had, so Freddie said Chelsea's fixtures are now turning and no blanks. Is it too soon to double up on Hazard and Higuain? Or are Chelsea too unreliable? And the rumour mill, Chelsea have a fantastic run from game 29, no blanks, likely double in 32. However, the club appears to be in a state where lunatics are now running the asylum. Do we see any assets worth the risk? And he's listed Luiz, Azpilicueta, Hazard, Higuain, perhaps. So do you want to kick off on Chelsea, Az, who've just had a good 2-0 win over Spurs?
Yeah, I mean, before tonight, I kind of would have thought they're just a bit off limits because the whole thing at the weekend was just an absolute joke with Kepa. I think Sarri did the right thing dropping him this week. He said that it's kind of made the players respect him more the way he's handled it, and I didn't believe it until they beat Spurs, what looks to be in quite a comfortable win, which I'm quite surprised at. You look at the fixture list; they've got Fulham away next week, which is not even next week, in a couple of days, which is an amazing fixture. Then they've got Wolves. Never really know what you're going to get with Wolves. They've been decent against the bigger sides. Then they've got Everton away. Again, maybe a fairly tricky one. Then they've got Cardiff. So in the next 4 games, they've got Fulham and Cardiff, which are 2 of the best fixtures you can have, which I really like. The double up though with Higuain and Hazard, that just seems overkill to me. I think if you've got one of them, that's probably enough. You've got to think Hazard's going to carry on playing. He's their best player. I'm surprised he got subbed. But Higuain is tempting at 9.5. It's just how do you kind of get him in? Because you think if you've got Jimenez, if you've got Rashford, you kind of might, and you've got Aguero. They're quite a popular 3. Ashley Barnes, like I've got as well. It's kind of just working out how to fit Higuain in, and then you've got loads of midfielders doing well as well. If you don't already have Hazard, so I think if you're swapping a player for one of these Chelsea players, you are running the risk that you're swapping them for a player who could get subbed or isn't in great form in Higuain. So there's definitely an element of risk with it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm tempted between Higuain or Vardy as my moves this week, but Higuain just didn't look like he did anything today. He's dropping really deep, so I'm not a massive fan of him. So then it would be Hazard, and then I can't really get him in easily. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
No.
What about you, Joe?
The player I'm most interested in, being a dullard manager, is of course one of the most boring ones. Although he's quite exciting in a way. David Luiz. He's attack minded.
You've been talking about him for weeks.
I have. I'm going to get him in next week. He's booked in.
I know you've got to now.
Well, so far I've got no injuries from the last 2 days. Thank God, because I had 5 flags, all serious ones, from last set of fixtures and the League Cup final. But David Luiz in for Laporte is the move I really want to make. I just think that makes sense. They've got great fixtures, and they've got the game week, and of course, as I said, the potential of a really strong game week 32 side double, and they play in the blanks as well. I'm cautious about Higuain and Hazard. Higuain could get benched. Hazard could play up front. That kind of thing happens. Hazard getting subbed off early today. That was a worry as well. I don't know whether Sarri's now going full on assertive, and he's just like doing this for effect. I don't know, but
I think part of the subbing could be because he played 120 minutes the weekend.
Yeah,
he was outstanding the weekend, and he
wants to preserve him for the next fixture. That would make sense as well. But I don't know. And also the thing with Hazard. So Hazard is trying to predict his hauls with a player that price and what he is. I want about a captain him. I want him to be a captaincy option, and I would want to be captain against, say, Fulham away next weekend if I owned him.
You would captain against Fulham, surely.
Well, would I though? Because Hazard's hauls in the last 10, he has hauled as in double-digit returns against Huddersfield, Brighton, and Watford. Great, but he's also got blanks against Bournemouth, Southampton, Palace, and Leicester. Now, he should be getting some returns in those matches, and he hasn't. So it's trying to predict...
Fulham, though, Joe.
It's Fulham, I know. But it's Bournemouth. he always scores against Bournemouth, is Southampton. Well, they were awful they were meant to be awful. They ended up teaching Chelsea a lesson, and of course Palace and Leicester. These are all teams that he should be. So I know it is only Fulham, but nevertheless, will he score? It's trying to predict his return. So, for example, see Salah. I know Salah didn't return tonight, and he should have done. But over the last 10, prior to tonight, he had actually hauled in 5 matches, and they were all against lowly sides, apart from Arsenal. And Aguero has got a return in every home game he started, including tonight, thankfully, because I brought him in. Although he didn't know that, but nevertheless. What I'm getting at there is I can, on the whole, I can feel safe captaining Salah. I know tonight scuppers that slightly, but and I can with Aguero at home. But with Hazard, I don't know. And with Higuain, I just think there might be better options. I'm going to be in the blanks. We'll come to chip strategy and things a bit later, but Jimenez is a player I want to keep, so I'm going to be fielding 2 players. Aguero may well be a player I want to keep if his price rises significantly, because I may want him in game week 32 still. But if his price doesn't rise that significantly, I can move him on to pretty much anyone. So Higuain is there, so I'm monitoring him. Definitely monitoring him.
So Joe, quick question then. For blank 31, you look at the main players. Hazard's going to be one of those.
Yes.
Would you look to bring him in for that week?
I would because it's temporary. I would be getting him for 31. I would be free hitting game week 32. I would have Hazard 33, and then I'm wildcarding. Yeah. It's 2 fixtures, and as you said, there's hardly any teams playing game week 31. You want to have the kind of on paper best options. I still wouldn't be captaining him though. It would be a Liverpool player that week, game week 31. But he's definitely an option. I think
he's probably worth a 4-point hit for anybody.
It could be. It depends also how. It's not set in stone how my team will be shaped up, because I'm kind of preempting the next discussion. But there's a certain other players I want to keep. I'm happy to bench. So it may not be. I may not have a midfield place for him, especially if I go for say Mane. Mane is someone I perhaps want more. I may go for a Liverpool double up, defensive double up. I don't know. It depends. It depends. I mean, it may be that I have room for Higuain and not Hazard, so I go that route. It's up in the air at the moment. But as you can tell by the saying, well, maybe this, maybe that. But with David Luiz, I'm on him, 100%. David Luiz in.
I think you're onto something looking at Chelsea's defence, because there's been. You take out the Man City and Bournemouth game, in general, they've been fairly solid, I think, this year. And I could see quite a few clean sheets. I mean, they kept Man City quiet the weekend, Spurs quiet. And Luiz has been, I think it's been mentioned on here numerous times, but he's been very creative. The actual through balls it's been brilliant with, and he seems to have a licence to be able to do that. Great on bonus. So I think Luiz is a really good shout for you there, Joe.
Now, Azpilicueta are also tempted by perhaps a double up game week thing. I like Azpilicueta. He could even outscore Hazard. He did tonight. Clean sheet, assist, maximum bonus. That's my kind of player. Really boring, steady Eddie, pretty much ignored, and then everyone's going for Hazard.
Well, even someone like Rudiger. Yeah. I mean, he's a little bit more expensive than Luiz, but goal threats there, and clean sheets are there. Yeah, I mean, defensively, they do look a good option leading up to the blank and beyond.
For those that have got, say, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, or Robertson and Van Dijk, how happy are they tonight? I mean, they're very happy. Yeah. Huge scores there, and there's massive potential in these types of defenders. I like them a lot. I also like Luke Shaw as well. He's not one for game week 31, but he's one that can get the odd clean sheet, can get the assists. He's nicely priced as well. I do, and one of the reasons I got Laporte in as well. He had just that bit of a mix of points from him. I like these.
Luke Shaw is a very frustrating to own, because he doesn't actually do anything that attacking very often. He got a great assist today where he skinned about 3 players, but he hasn't done that for all year. I think he's got like 2 assists all season, and he's always getting booked. And he's Luke Shaw is very frustrating, and their fixtures aren't great from next week. They've got Southampton next, and then they've got Arsenal, I think, and then a blank, and then something. So I'm looking to get rid of him, I think, next week.
Okay, well,
I think just quickly on,
yeah.
just quickly on
That's fine.
Chelsea. One thing to be aware of, I would say, is the Europa League. So they've got these great fixtures, but because they're playing in the Europa League, they're going to be playing Sunday, Thursday consistently. So it's just how seriously do they start to take it? I think Higuain could be an option because he's tended to play Giroud in the Europa League, and he's done quite well in that competition. So he's not a bad backup striker. So I think he'll probably get the league games, but it's just something to be wary of. They're going to have a lot of matches coming up, so
Yes, we could see.
I think that's why defensive options could be a really good way to go. To expect them to definitely get the minutes.
Yeah, we've seen that before with Chelsea. I mean, historically, Terry, Azpilicueta, these have been the types of players that play every minute. Very rare that you get that, but they might miss like one game or something. But it's they're I don't know. It just seems more reliable. It's really great value as well. So Azpilicueta, he's got an assist, clean sheet, maximum bonus tonight.
What's he 6 points?
6 point something. He almost doesn't matter. Because he's delivering something that you would expect from a 9-10 million midfielder. So that's the kind of boring player I'm looking at.
There's plenty of value, isn't there, in the forwards and midfielders? There's quite a few good options there, so I think you can get away with spending a little bit more at the back.
Yeah, I think tonight as well has shown us the power of defenders there as well. So yeah, for me, watching brief really.
I can never remember a game week like that where you've had 3 defenders all with 12 plus points.
Well, it happened.
Incredible,
Remember at the start of the season, the so-called Ram, Robertson, Alonso, Mendy.
Not from the same team though.
No, not from the same team. No, sorry, not the same team.
I wonder if anybody's actually got the triple up.
The triple up, yeah. That'd be a good smooth for next week.
Yeah.
Yes, please do. Tweet one of us and let us know. We'd love to include that. That's smooth. Do you know what? I was introduced as well today to you remember the James Bond, the guy who was like, I don't know, 100th or 10th in the world or something, and then he started doing these audacious moves and they all paid off. And we described him as the James Bond of FPL. He appeared on Fantasy Football Scout comment page yesterday to thank me for referring to him as James Bond and all his girlfriend and family.
I'm the Johnny English. I'm the Johnny English.
No, he was very pleased. He said he's going to wear a tuxedo every time he makes a transfer from now on and drink a martini. Shaken, obviously, not stirred. Let's move on to our talking point. Now, I know last week, I wasn't here, you talked about chip strategy. Some things have changed since. And I think it may become a regular thing where we just dip into this and find out how we're going. Because I think some people are still a bit up in the air as well. So I've got a picture up of Newcastle. I think they're one of the teams that have created something that's a little bit up in the air. Suddenly people are looking at their assets a bit more keenly, particularly songstress share in defence. So yeah, there are 2 basic themes, I think, to chip strategy. So apologies for people who like something complicated, but in basic, whatever chips you're using, now people are either loading up on blank game week 31 and 33 players, or they're loading up on potential double game week 32 players. They're in that type of camp. Meanwhile, there's lots of people, a bit like me, who are thinking, well, I'm going for one particular strategy, but I'm not going to avoid Aguero. But with a number of injuries, I think it's changed slightly. So those that were trying to load up, trying to perhaps free hits in game week 31, and trying to load up on game week 32, there was a lot of injuries to key players really. So Rashford, he still, he came on today, but he's been a bit of a doubt. Laporte as well, injured. He's not going to be back as well. And then blank game week options as well. So for those trying to load up on game week 31 players, so like me, I got Anderson and Pereira in. I'm not too keen on either of them anymore, and perhaps I might be keen on some other players instead. So maybe I've made an error there. Newcastle strong form is another issue as well to contend with, and the possibility of a blank in game week 33 for Newcastle, possibly, and that depends on other results within the FA Cup as well. So with all that in mind, we have some general questions about the best strategies and players. So I'll just reel through them and we'll come to your thoughts on them. So Zoomers, Bloomers, which players are best to bring in game week 29 and 30, whatever your strategy? So he's saying, whatever your strategy is, forget it, just get the best players in week to week. Does strategy matter with quality players like Aguero or Sterling? Are we unfairly ignoring players because we have a strategy in our heads that we're going to use? Anzi Babkin and Mr. Frost, are Newcastle now the key team to target? And particularly, few questions on Almiron as well. Is he worth a punt? So as we said, playing game week 31. We don't know the situation with 32 and 33 yet, really. And GAU, should we be holding players just because we have value tied up in them? Or is now the perfect time to cash in when fixtures turn? And FPL Big Mac says the unthinkable. Is it time to sell Doherty? And of course, I want to add in Jimenez to that as well. Lots of people have a lot of money in them, but can we part with them, really? Especially when they have a double coming up. So, Adam, what's your kind of thoughts on current strategy and also some of those issues that we've just been talking about there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my strategy at the moment, it hasn't changed, is I'm going to build my team for 31 and 33 and 3 hits in 32. Pure reason being that I just don't think you'll gain much of an advantage in 31 playing a free hit, because a lot of people are going to build up to having 9 or 10 players anyway. So I just don't see the advantage. Whereas with the doubles, there's a huge upside, and it gives me the flexibility then to have like a random week of using my triple captain, which you'd expect to hopefully get if you get the captaincy right, a guaranteed green arrow in that week. So that's my plan, and then a wild card 34, probably bench boost 35. In terms of some of the things that I've mentioned, so Newcastle have been mentioned. There's a guy, I think his name's Mark Douglas, he's one of the correspondents up north, who actually tweeted today saying that he feels that this Newcastle defence, the best he's seen, the best he's ever seen. So I thought that was fairly interesting. They've been fairly resolute the last couple of game weeks.
To be honest, unless he's about 100 years old, that's possibly not saying much in Newcastle.
Well, that's true. That's true. Going back to the Keegan days,
yeah.
The best he's ever seen in the world,
for Newcastle.
Just for Newcastle. Well, to be fair, he's probably right, because they can keep clean sheets.
Yeah, exactly. I think Share. I was put off him just purely on the yellow cards, but I watched it last night, and I watched him in the Wolves game. He does love a shot from distance.
His goal was great.
It's a fantastic goal. So I think 4.7 million for him, and I think the sales is similar. I think they're off a great value. So I think Newcastle, I don't trust them to thrash teams too much. So I'd be more inclined to go with defensive assets than attacking assets personally. And I think with them not guaranteed for 33, I think there's probably better attackers, I would say. I think the issue you mentioned around retaining players. So I've got the 2 players that I think I've got the most value in are Pogba and Jimenez. And I think I can comfortably keep them. I'll almost certainly want them in 32 and 34. I bought Jimenez at 5.5. So to sell him would be... I don't even know what he is at the moment. Was he 6.8? I just don't think it's worth it when I'll almost certainly want him back. And he's almost fixture proof because he scored in some of the tougher games as well. So I think I'll probably keep him. And I think you just got to prioritise. It really depends on what you bought the players for and whether you would want them back. And, if you bought a player at 5.5 and a 6.8, unless their form really, really nosedives, I think you just got to prioritise the one or the 2 or 3 players that you want to keep, and then build your team around that. I think the good thing for 31 is there's loads of options. We've talked, we've mentioned loads of players already, but I think you can get, if you wanted to play 11 that week, you could easily go 4-4-2, 5-3-2, 4-3-3, and there's options to facilitate every single formation. And just finally, the players that I would look at, I think we've talked about Leicester. I think there's some great options there, potentially some budget ones. I think the ones that don't play in 31, the obvious one is City, and I think Sterling didn't start tonight. I know you've got him as, so you should hopefully. But he's key. I mean, when it was 0-0, he was the first player that he brought on. I think Sterling's got an incredible record against Bournemouth, which I think you mentioned earlier, Joe. So. I think he could be one to bring in and captain, and you'd expect him to play the next 2. Is it Watford at home then? I mean, that could be.
Yeah, it's 2 great games coming up for City.
Yeah, and you'd expect him to start both of them, and it could be a little bit of a differential because a lot of people have Aguero, but so it could be a little bit of a.
I think you're right. Away from home, Sterling, I think, is the standout captain, especially.
I'd agree. I'd be tempted by that, but I think other other than City, I'm probably looking at the teams that are playing in 31. So Chelsea, Leicester, potentially Newcastle. And also, I've got my eye on West Ham, probably for game week 30. And then one final person to mention who's back in, David Brooks is back tonight. So I think game week 30, he's worth for 5 million. I've been a huge fan of him this season.
Yeah, no, I think really good points there. What about you, Az? You were nodding your head in agreement with that strategy. So is that yours as well?
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat it too much. That's what I'm planning. The build up to 31. I've got Sterling, who I kind of feel like is one of Sterling or Aguero seems, pretty essential is the word we all like to use. But I think you need a City attacker for the next two games, for that Bournemouth game and that Watford home game, and it's got to be one of those two, I think, because the other options just aren't doing it. Sané's getting benched or subbed early. Mahrez was absolutely awful, apparently. Like who else? Who else can you get? Jesus is injured, so I think it's got to be one of those two. And then you probably just give them the captaincy this week, and that kind of, to me, that's quite an easy decision. But yeah, I'm looking to load up on game 31 players, and then get a decent side up for that. Because the good thing about game week 31 players is they cover the game week 33 fixture as well. Well, most of them do. So if you've got a decent squad out for 31, you've more than likely got a good squad for 33. Then you've got the free hit for 32. The only issue with that, and what we talked about last week, was it blocks you from using a triple captain or a bench boost in that quite good game week. But to be able to have a good team around it and to be able to get a really strong team up with 32, that seems to me the most logical use.
And also, we don't know at this stage whether they won't be. We assume the double game weeks will be 32 and 35, but there could be another one. We don't know. We don't know. That has happened.
We've got the Man U one confirmed, haven't we, with Wolves and who else they got? Wolves, and they've got another decent fixture. I can't remember who it is, but yeah, I mean, triple captain on Pogba would look quite good in that game. But I think the free hit is probably more important to make sure you've got a good team out around that. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, without any hits, and if I just use all my transfers on getting a team out for 31, I'd be looking at 9 at the moment. So chucking a couple of hits in there, and then I've got a squad for 31 and 33. So I'm actually quite happy with that. And Leicester just to me, it just seemed like everything just falling into place for Leicester players. New manager, fixtures, no blank. Just getting a couple of those players just seems so important. I think for this run, if you're adopting that strategy. And like we talked about last week on the Scoutcast, it's amazing that there are so many kind of teams who have got like a really good run up of fixtures up until this blank. So you're not just getting in a player who has got a really rough run of games just so he's got a blank. Like, you've got Newcastle got good games all the way up, Liverpool as well, good games and no blank. Burnley, decent games, no blank. You've got plenty of options of teams to get players in for. So I really can't see many drawbacks between that strategy that Adam and I are considering.
I think what's quite good as well, you mentioned it as, is that for 31 and 33, last year you only had there's one blank, and then which you really had to focus on, because most teams playing both. It is really worthwhile taking a hit, because for players that don't play in 31 and 33, because you're going to get it back in appearance points straight away, aren't you? Your 4 points. So
yeah,
I could see it being beneficial if you haven't got 11 and there's players like, you could bring in someone like Barnes or Maddison to top up your team. You're going to straight away get the points back. So if they do anything, you're going to be up. So I think I'll probably look to go with 11, even if it costs me an 8 or a 12.
I think we're in quite a privileged position because we've still got all the chips. I think we had some questions last week about what to do if you don't have some of the chips.
Yeah.
And I think you've got quite hard calls to make.
Yeah.
But I think if you haven't got some of the chips, it is going to be impossible for you to field strong teams in all these weeks. So I think you kind of just have to write one. You have to adopt a completely different strategy if you haven't got chips, and just pretty much write some of these game weeks off, or one of them off, because you just can't do it.
I think
the match is so different.
I think we're in danger with the Twitter FPL community, Fantasy Football Scout, of thinking that because a lot of us plan and we keep our chips for this time, that everyone does, and they don't. And there'll be a lot of people, even in the top 10,000 who have started using their chips. and maybe it didn't go well after Christmas. They maybe, I mean, I know as you were you were thinking about using your wild card, and we were going, no, and it's good that we didn't, because some people were saying you can do it, it's easy, but it just makes your life harder and harder. And
I would have got Mane though. That would have been.
And we have to remember that there's these poor souls out there that we're competing against. So hard luck, you lot, and hopefully we're going to get loads more points than you. But that's what it's all about, saving the chips. And I know people say, oh, it's boring, everyone's doing the same thing, but that's what chips have created. That's the game. That's what they've done. And I personally would advocate you've got a pre-Christmas wildcard, pre-New Year Day wildcard. One after that. Do the same for all the chips. Just have a whole bunch of chips before Christmas, a whole bunch of chips after Christmas, and then you've got to use your chips differently, more strategically, and base it on luck for that first half of the season, and then you're free to use them for that second half. That would really mix things up.
It'd be so nice.
That's something I've called for the last couple of years, and no one listens to me, but I think that would be good. So okay. I'm going to go with your strategy as well, but I wasn't going to go with your strategy last week. So before I go into that, I just wanted to say that, based in previous years, do you remember that scene in Monty Python's Life of Brian, where you've got all the different political groups and they all start bickering? You've got the People's Judean Front and the People's Front of Judea, and then they all start calling each other splitters and having a go at each other. And I think chip strategy in the last couple of years has really been like that. It's been horrible, really. So you've had the blank game week 31 People's Front and the double game week free hitters Revolutionary Army or whatever. They're all saying my one's better than your one, and look, I got 20 more points than you, and it just goes on like that, and it's really frustrating. But
lovely comparison.
But that's how it's felt. But I think it's changed this year. I think there has been an acceptance that chip strategy is down to your team. No one's going to have a go at you for doing a different strategy. You look at your team and each individual team, and there quite simply isn't one right solution to do it. If you've got all your chips, there's lots of different ways to do it. It depends what players you've got at the moment, which players you like and which players you want to get in. And I think it's been quite nice. I haven't seen too much bickering. I haven't seen these revolutionary armies and the People's Front of whatever. So last week I was all set on the following: load up on game week 32 players, free hit game week 31, make the best of game week 33, before wildcarding in game week 34. And the reason I wanted that is because I was well stocked up on game week 32 players. So Rashford, Pogba, Jimenez, Doherty, Laporte as well. I was also doing all right for game week 33 because I had Watford and Palace players, and one set of those players is going to play. Because the way the FA Cup is going, one of them will blank in game week 33, one of them won't. And that goes with Newcastle as well. And so for me, it just made sense, really. I was actually kind of okay for game week 33 as well. And it was just a case of loading up on... And I thought Arsenal were going to get a double game week as well. So I wanted Kolasinac. I was looking at the likes of Aubameyang as well, or Lacazette. Even some of those midfielders, having a look at them as well. But then they're not going to get a double game week 32, so I'm not interested in them anymore. And now Chelsea are. So it just the whole thing has just changed for me. So I'm with both of you here. So I've already got Pereira and Anderson in. I'm not quite so sure about that, but I'm well on my way. I don't think I'm going to get 11 out game week 31. At the moment, I won't have a goalie. I don't think I'm going to take a hit for a goalie. I'm just going to go goalieless. So I might have 9 or 10. But one of the questions says...
go on that though, Joe. Wouldn't you? If they're playing 31 and 33.
But get this. I've got Guaita, and I have Foster. One of them will play 33.
Oh, okay. Got it.
See, that's why. That's why it all worked out for me, and it's so peculiar and it's so individual to my team, and only those others that have a Palace, and it goes for the same. If you've got Wan-Bissaka and Holebas, for example, you've got the same thing, same issue there. One of them is going to play. For a goalie as well, I've got a game week 33 goalie, and a good one. They get save points. I'm happy with them.
I think you get to find out who's going to, because you'll have a good idea before the deadline who's top three, won't you? So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I hope it's Foster. He gets more saves, but I'm happy to go in that. So for me, I'm happy to go for game week 31 with no goalie as well. So, there are some caveats to that as well. So Zuma's Bloomer's question asked, do you still think it's important to get key players in over the next few, no matter what the strategy? And so for me, I think for what both of you have said, a City player is key. And a City player was key for me when I was loading up in game week 32. It's still key for me, game week 31. So I got Aguero in. Hey presto, he gets me, I think, 9 points tonight. Happy with that. And I think there's more to come away to Bournemouth.
I think they're the only ones, though, that are really, apart from the game week, outside of the players who do have a blank, Aguero or Sterling, I think, is the only one I'd be looking to get in now. I think there's plenty of other options that.
But I had Laporte before, so I was like on my way to having quite a nice, set of City players. So I was thinking, well, I could even get Sterling as well if I'm loading up there and free hitting 31. Anyway, that was then. This is now. So, another of those questions we're looking at retaining value of some players. So there are many I'm happy to ditch. Son, for example, perhaps even Aguero, because he's going to miss game week 33 and I can just get him in on a free hit for 32. But Pogba for me is a keeper. I've got so much value. I got him at 7-8. He's over. I don't even know how much it is. Doesn't matter. It's too much. Rashford's ditchable. In fact, I ditched Rashford this week. I think one of the reason I also ditched Rashford is because Lukaku is back and they have options on the wing as well, and so it means that Rashford's less of that kind of main man. I think he can play out wide with Lukaku's there, and it's just different. It's not like those early days where Lukaku wasn't around. And
you've got to think they've got a big game, Champions League. Rashford clearly not 100% right. The fix you want to keep him for is this Southampton game. I think it's going to come a bit too soon for him. I'd be surprised if he started on Saturday. And
the other two, Doherty and Jimenez, and I suspect this is the same for many people. So I want to keep them both. I've got loads of value. I want them both in the doubles. They blanked for me this week, but how many weeks have that pair bailed me out? It's been phenomenal. The last 10 minutes of the match, what is it? Jimenez goal, Doherty assist. How many times that happened? It's been fantastic. I think it was Andy who pretty much married Jimenez at some point over December. I kept saying get him in. I got him in, and wow, I can see what he means. The guy's amazing. And he was still pretty cheap when I got him. So I'm going to keep those two as well. So in a way, just to sum up really, I'm looking at players with good fixtures. Last season I ignored players with good fixtures before the blank and focused on the blank, and I think that is a danger. If you don't have one of Aguero or Sterling, I would consider making that move, definitely. Aubameyang fixtures tighten up a bit. We've already seen, he can get benched. Aubameyang to Aguero looks a no-brainer to me. Next couple of matches, whatever your strategy. So if you're loading up on game week 32, great, and if you're loading up on game week 31, well, just do it. Do it anyway.
Well, even if it means just look at it as a -4, separate to anything else you're doing. I'd be amazed if Aguero doesn't outscore Aubameyang by 4 points over the next 2 games.
Aguero is just the kind of player where he got 9 points. Okay, I'm happy with that, but I think he can do better. And there's not many players that you come away with a 9-point return and think,
should be more.
And so he's one of those players as well. And best Newcastle options. Almiron, I mean, what are your thoughts on him? Everyone's going crazy about him just because he's really fast and's got massive eyebrows. So that's all I can see. But does he tempt either of you?
I really like him.
Okay.
I think he could be a really, really shrewd pick. I think if you look at his underlying stats and his performances, and what the Newcastle fans say about him when they've watched him, I think he brings a lot to the table in terms of like direct running, in terms of shots, in terms of potential assists. He boosts Rondon's appeal as well, which is good. And he's such a differential because just no one owns him. So I really like him, and I'm considering him as a Jota replacement.
Okay.
But he hasn't done anything yet, so it's all good having promise, but you do need to see some returns. So next week is his audition for me, and if he can get anything in that game, then I might well bring him in.
And what about you, Adam? You interested?
I think he's looked good when I've watched him. He looked all right against Burnley. Against Huddersfield, he looked like he ran the show. I appreciate they're obviously down to 10, but that got if the one that hit the post, if that had gone in, it'd been one of the goals, one of the finishes of the season. So I like him. I think he's added a spark and an extra dimension to Newcastle. I think there's other options. I think because there's a couple of Leicester midfielders and potentially West Ham midfielders that definitely have a fixture in 33 as well. It'll be, I might only be able to go for one of them, but he's definitely under consideration. So yeah, I don't think it looks good.
Yeah, no, he's got good underlying stats. 9 key passes or chances created in the last 2 starts. He had 2 starts, I think. So assist is well and truly imminent. I don't think he figures on my assist imminent table because I think you need 10 over 4, but 9 over 2. Consider himself on it, really. I mean, he's well and truly on that. And 4 shots in his last 2 as well, so that's good. So he's got a mix of potential there. Rondon 5 shots on target the last 4 is very good, and I think as you say, it can only help. We saw what happened with I got Ashley Barnes in, and you can see what happens when the midfield is not very creative. I didn't see a problem with Ashley Barnes himself, but the rest of Burnley not creating for him away. Newcastle stifled that, and
it's the same with Fulham as well.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at Mitrovic, his positioning's still really good. He's running around like a lunatic, getting into positions, but there's just no one to feed him. So he's not going to get any goals.
A couple of other players, a share as well, obviously. Now, a lot of players have been put, managers like myself have been put off with the 8 yellow cards he's on. So obviously he gets 2 more, and then he's got too much ban. You do not want that at this time of the season. But is he ever going to get him? Is it the same as that time? Remember when Diego Costa was on 4 yellows forever? And he just never got that 5th yellow. And meanwhile, he was scoring every week. And
I had him throughout
that. And I didn't get him for that. I was worried. And I think it's the same thing here. I just think he's ever going to get it. He's going to keep scoring. And I think all of the Newcastle defence is good. And I'm very tempted. It's a slight risk with Game Week 33. We don't know whether they're going to blank or not. But yeah, if you got one, well done, because you've already got your points there, I think. And I think there's more to come as well. Richie is one to mention as well for boring managers like me. He's had 18 corners the last 4. So that does suggest that he's going to be in the mix, I think, really. But yeah, if you've got any other further thoughts about kind of chip strategy, whether things have changed or anything over the last week or so for you?
Not for me, no. I think if anything, the free hit in 32 is looking more appealing.
I feel like things are clearer. Last week when I was on, I was kind of all over the place. Whereas this week, I'm pretty sure this is the right way to play it.
I didn't initially do it because of the way my team was, but I knew that for ease of fantasy management, it's so much easier to prepare for these blanks and then free hit Game Week 32 because that's the odd man out really. And then go into Game Week 34 with a wild card. Perfect, really. I'm kind of pleased. What could have been? Who knows? Let's move on to Game Week 29 in detail with the differentials and clean sheets as well. So, fire away. How are we doing? Because we're a different lineup today, though.
Yeah, I'm the only survivor from last week. It was pretty bad all round, except for one person who was on last week, because David nailed both the clean sheet and the differential, which, if you watch this show, is a pretty rare thing. So I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to give him too much credit.
Now David's power was in picking captains, and he was like He-Man, really. Obviously, in warmer clothes. But it was incredible. He had the power of Grayskull, and every week he was getting his captain return. He's lost that mojo now. And
don't compare David to He-Man.
And no, he's more like Skeletor now with the captaincy. But he's moved that power of Grayskull over to these differentials and clean sheets. So yeah, he's still got it.
Yeah, I mean, he made a nice pick of Harvey Barnes, who he talked about as his differential, and went for a Newcastle clean sheet. So two solid picks that both came through. The rest of us didn't do so well. So let's move swiftly on. So Adam, you're our guest. Differential, have you got one lined up?
Yeah, so Gonzalo Higuain. I think the fixture is really probably the main appealing thing. Fulham away. It's probably one of the fixtures you'd look to. I thought he linked all right with Hazard in the first half. I think he hit the post as well before I put it on. So from what I've seen so far of him, I think he looks okay. But Fulham away is a fixture that I fancy him for. And I'm surprised how low his ownership is. I suppose given that a lot of people probably got Aguero, Aubameyang, etc., it's probably not that surprising. But yeah, he's the one that I think that stands out for me in terms of the differential.
So he's got 2.7% ownership. That's despite scoring 2 goals in their 5-0 win at Huddersfield. But that was the only game in the Premier League he's returned any attacking returns in. But yeah, I mean,
I think he's taken a few gets. Because I think when he came over, a lot of people were talking about he was slightly unfit. So he's starting to. But you can see him and Hazard seem to link up okay. So yeah. I think he'll do all right. I may bring him in. I'm not. We'll have to wait.
Yeah, I'm debating him as well. I mean, apparently he was dropping quite deep tonight, but he was playing against Spurs. You got to think against Fulham, he's going to be really pushing on to try and get some goals. Yeah, I think it's a good pick. I'm going for Harvey Barnes. We've talked about him. Yeah. David picked him last week, so I'll just follow He-Man. That's my plan. I hope he doesn't listen to this. I think, I mean, the question is whether Brendan Rodgers likes what he sees with Harvey Barnes. But I mean, everything that I've seen of Harvey Barnes has been really, really good. I mean, the Championship, he was absolutely fantastic. They've recalled him from the loan at West Brom, and now he's starting in the Premier League, and he looks like he's adapted really well. So I think he's a very quick, skillful, direct player, and he should, based on what Brendan Rodgers has said, you've got to think he's going to fit into the philosophy quite well. So
he just needs some more composure in front of goal, because there's been a few times he's been in such good positions and he's completely fluffed his line.
Like Spurs, wasn't he?
Exactly. Other than that, he's been.
Has he got good character though, Adam? That's the question.
Yeah, good point. Well, I'm sure Brendan will find that out.
Find out very quickly. Joe, who are you going for?
I'm going to go for Pedro. He's a player I've had in this season. He's actually
bandwagon after tonight, Joe. Yeah.
Now. I knew this was coming. I knew this was coming. Now, as you both will know, I sent the notes over with Pedro. I sent the notes over earlier today, and he was my pick earlier today. And the reason is because going into the match tonight, in which he did score, he was on my goals imminent table. So big plug for that. So he was due a goal, and he indeed did. So another success story for the goals imminent table. Prior tonight, he had 10 shots across his previous 4 matches, 8 in the box and 8 on target. That's really good. When you start seeing that on the goals imminent table, that says you're going to score. It's when it's like 1 shot on target, 10 shots but 1 on target. That's when they're like going to be like Nathan Redmond for like ever. And he's 3.1% owned. He plays Fulham, who, as we well know, are taking the term whipping boys to new uncharted territory, particularly woeful at home. They conceded more shots and more close range shots than any other team in their last 4 home matches. Only Cardiff and Leicester have conceded more in front of their own fans recently. I was just having a look actually, because Pedro, he's actually played, so he missed the Huddersfield game of 25, but obviously 26 and 28 and 20. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 matches around that, he has played at least 60 minutes as well, and he's had 2 goals over that time as well. I just think he's in favour. He's playing an awful side. I think he'll get 60 minutes. I think he'll score, and he's so low owned as well. Do you know what? He's a tempter for me as well. Game week 31, but I don't know whether I'll go through with that.
Yeah, I mean, all their wingers just. Willian, Pedro, Hudson-Odoi, they're all just...
Every time I got Pedro in, he scores for me though. And it was a couple of seasons ago as well. He had a great final few game weeks of the season. So, I don't know. So I was doing a Meet the Manager with Simon March. Recently was talking about a lot of the psychology behind such moves. And I definitely am guilty of that. I've got real bias.
When I bought him in earlier in the season, my season started to unravel. So I blame him almost entirely for everything that's happened to me this year. But yeah, no, I think he's a decent pick just if he can keep his place in the team, because that's what it comes down to.
He offers a different dimension. I think,
he does.
Particularly, I think when they play Willian and Hazard, they're a little bit too similar. So he makes more runs in behind, doesn't he? So I think that's a good pick. I think he'll play the weekend.
Okay, there's a clean sheet. Adam, you can go first again.
Yeah, so I'm picking your boys, going Brighton.
Bad move. We suck.
Well, I think it's I think particularly the fact that you're getting dragged into a relegation battle. I don't think you'll go down. I think the experience from last year was good, and I think it's a sort of game where you'll grind out a 1-0.
We've got to win this.
I think you will do. I mean, Huddersfield offer very little going forward as well. So I can see you keeping a clean sheet. I mean, your home, in general at home, you're pretty decent as well. So I think you can. I can see. I was tempted to go with Murray as the differential as well, but I can see a comfortable win for Brighton. Well, I can see a win for Brighton, and I think he'll keep a clean sheet.
I think Dunk needs to be dropped. Personally, I think he's
interesting.
He has been dreadful all year. All of 2019 has been our worst player, or one of them. I'd like to see him dropped, but I can't see it happening. I don't know. I'm worried. I don't know about you, Joe. I think we shouldn't be in this position.
I think if it was because it's Huddersfield, I still think there's 3 worse teams than Brighton. Even if Brighton fielded just a dog and a seagull, there are still 3 worse sides.
Who's the third though?
Cardiff.
I'd agree. I think Huddersfield, Fulham, and Cardiff.
Huddersfield, Fulham, and Cardiff are the 3 teams that deserve to go down. If there's any justice on this planet of Earth.
And if you look at the goal difference as well, I think they're all -30. You're -12. So
I forgot about Cardiff. That's good.
Exactly.
I like Cardiff.
That's how bad they are. You can't even.
Yeah. I'm going to go for United at home to Southampton.
Yeah, it's a solid shot.
I think Southampton and Brighton are probably quite even in terms of ability. Southampton really picked up under the new manager. He's come in and just shows that a new manager can really have a positive effect on a team like that. So big win for them today, lifts them a bit further out of the relegation places. But I just think United have too much for them. And I mean United are a bit funny defensive. I don't completely trust them with their kind of with the centre back pairings and Solskjaer's kind of philosophy of attacking, but I think a clean sheet against Southampton looks pretty likely. Joe?
Well, on the same theme of targeting Cardiff, I'm going for Wolves for a clean sheet. I initially, when we started this at the beginning of the season, I had a lot of success with targeting teams against Cardiff. I'm gonna stick with it for a few more weeks. I think they're pretty poor, and I think it's mainly due to their thin squad. They just can't rest. They're getting injuries piling up. I just think as each game week goes on, and as it's proving at the moment, they're just getting worse and worse, descending into what they are really, which is a championship side. So only Huddersfield have scored fewer goals than Cardiff this season. So that's pretty bad. And Warnock's lot are the 3rd worst side in terms of shots. In total, only Burnley and Brighton have had less attempts there. So I just think, let's go for it. Wolves clean sheet. Doherty mega score incoming.
Be about time.
Okay, well, let's have a look at our plans for next week when we wrap up. Let's go with you, Adam, first. I've got your bus team, trademark always cheating, by the way, for that term. We've got your team. You've got Pogba, captain, as well. So
that may change depending on who are bringing. So I was obviously waiting to see what happened tonight. I think the fact Sterling was benched and very few people own Sterling in relation to Aguero, that really appeals to me. I'm going to be taking out Aubameyang, and I will be I'm unsure who I'm bringing in, but potentially Vardy, potentially Higuain, and then I may either swap Son, or depending on who I take out again, I might even have enough money to take out Camarasa and upgrade to Sterling or Hazard. So I need to have a proper look at it. There could be an opportunity to beef my defence and throw Louise in there as well. So I'm not averse to taking a -4. So I need to have a proper look at it. I'm not against captaining Pogba, but I think if I bring Sterling in, he'll get the armband. I mean, I think he's almost certain to start the weekend, and I think Bournemouth is probably the team that he'd want to play at the moment. So. I could see him. I think that could give me a nice advantage over people, because a lot will have Aguero or won't have Sterling. So I'm keen to probably try and get him in.
Yeah, no,
but I need to play around with it to look at the different options. Like I said, I might take a hit this week and make 3 transfers.
Because at the moment, you're going for loading up on game week 31 as well. So obviously that hit is with that in mind. And you've got, 6 at the moment? Game week 31.
think I've got 5. I've got
5.
3 defenders: Fabianski, Salah. I think off the top of my head. So I've got 5. I'm not. I think I can get. I'll have. If I just focus on that, I can get to 9. But if I go in with 8, and I'm fine taking a few hits for the right players.
Yeah.
I think for someone like Sterling, it'd be silly, to worry about just thinking about the blanks and miss out on a couple of potential. So is it Watford at home after? I mean,
that's 2 great fixtures.
And that's just before that's the week before the FA Cup. So I'll probably be thinking more about that. So yeah, I think City. I need to bring in a City player. The other option, I could stick safe and go with Aguero. I might. It just seems. I think Sterling seems the more exciting, just mainly because less people own him. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, we've spoken about Aguero, this Aguero away thing. I mean, all his major hauls are at home, and he is getting the odd points away, but he hasn't got a mega haul away yet, really. And I still think Sterling is the guy to do that. So I think you're probably right there, but you can't go wrong with Aguero for the next 2. I think as well.
I might even look at trying to get both of them in, and just that could be that. I wouldn't completely rule that out.
If Mark was here, he would say, "Aggressive move." That is an aggressive move.
I think I want to do something quite aggressive, because I think I've probably not done that over the last few weeks, and I've paid particularly around that.
This is why we had you on the Meet the Manager video, because there's not many managers would do that, and so good luck to you if you do, because that is a bold move, but it could be huge. As I've got your Game Week 28 team up as well, so still a bit out of date, but gives people a flavour of what you've got coming up for Game Week 29. Who are you looking to captain? You got Sterling, for example, and what moves, if any, are you planning to make?
Well, I've got 2 frees because I wanted the kind of the option to kind of shuffle my team around a bit, and I've got 3 things I'm considering. So Edison's definitely leaving my team because I'm probably not going to be playing him, in the next couple of games. Got Fabianski, I'm happy with that. So that frees up some money. Rashford's going to be going because I don't think he's going to start against Southampton, and then he's got Arsenal, I think, and then a blank. So I'm happy to get rid of him. And then it's just, who do I bring in? So the easy move would just be Edison and Rashford to Vardy, and just a non-playing goalkeeper because I've got Fabianski anyway. I could do that for free, or I could lose Jota and get in Barnes for a -4 and bring in Higuain, who I'm considering, or I could drop Son and get Maddison in, and get either Vardy or Higuain. So there's quite a few players that I'm considering. It kind of just depends on whether I decide on Vardy or Higuain, I think. And actually, it's just complete 50-50. I don't know who I'm going to go for at the moment. But I'm definitely going to be bringing in a Leicester player. And I'm definitely going to be bringing in either Vardy or Higuain. And captain will be Sterling.
I think that's good moves. I think, as I've said, I think Sterling is the good one. We've got a captaincy video coming out. I'll be streaming that one tomorrow. So I'm sure Sterling will be mentioned quite heavily in that. So I put my team up. I've gone for Pogba at home to Southampton. Pogba's consistently returning. Even when I haven't seen the heat map from tonight, but with Matic out, I'm assuming Pogba's slightly, having to do some defensive duties as well. That may not have been the case, but he still came away from that match with an assist, and I think at home that's going to continue. I think he's a great option. Aguero is my vice captain. I'm not expecting huge returns, but I am expecting an attacking return. I think he's quite a good option there. I've got Laporte in my 11. But because he's going to move, that's going to be David Luiz. But I may go for Azpilicueta as well. But I think David Luiz just offers that slightly better value. I think both of them are nailed on. I can't see Sarri going anywhere. I think he's asserted himself. He's got a good win against Spurs. So I don't think he's going anywhere. And Azpilicueta and Luiz are just his favoured, defensive lineup. So I'm definitely looking at that. And I'm not going to take a hit. I've had two hits in a row. I've sort of sorted my team out. I'm quite happy with it on the whole, and I think I can move into Game Week 30 with considering the likes of Mane, Maddison. Who else have I written down? Yeah, of course, Brooks as well looks potentially could value Fraser as well, because Bournemouth's fixtures turn, and then up front, maybe 31, looking at the likes of King or Higuain as well. So, perhaps even Vardy. So I feel I'm in a better place than I was, and I just hope I can go back to those green arrows as well. But Adam and Az, thanks so much for joining me. It's been really good.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
It's been really good for me as well too, because I missed last week to get that chip strategy sorted, and it's we're all the same. People like it when we're a bit different, but we're not. And I think we're doing what's right for we're doing what's right for our teams, and we're not saying it's the best strategy. It's the best strategy for all three of our teams as well. So I don't want any bickering, anyone. So, but in the meantime, it's a good night from me.
Good night from me.
And a good night from me.
Good night all.